Tip of the day number 14. Learn daily physical exercises you can perform at home. This will help to keep you active and reduce boredom in case you need to stay at home. Need help and support? Please contact us at the hotline 311 Psychosocial Support at 722-6575 or 518-4157. Brought to you by PAHO, the OACS Commission, and UNICEF.
The opinions expressed on this TV program by the host, co-host, guest, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions and responsibility of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of UTV or its affiliates.
You can say what you want about John Compton. The one thing that you always got from them was a sense that even if you did not know where they were going, that they knew where they were going. Or that people, even if it's a fallacy, had the feeling that they were going somewhere good. With regards to even people like my father, Sir Julian, and of course George Odlum, you got the feeling that they also had a vision of where they wanted to take the country and what they would have done if indeed they were Prime Minister. With this government, I cannot say the same. So before I do anything else, I will call for shout-outs. We're going to do shout-outs tomorrow, all right? Just send your shout-outs to 519-1818. 758 for those of you who are out of the country and don't remember somehow. But send in your WhatsApp messages. That's my personal number. You send in 758-519-1818. Send your greetings to whoever, coming from whoever, whatever community they're in, whatever community you're in, what the greeting is. And if there's a nickname, spell it phonetically, spell it how you want me to pronounce it so that I don't mess it up. And hopefully we'll do as many as we can tomorrow. I would like to say though, send a special shout out from the Miku North constituency in waiting for Jeremiah Norbert, wishing him a very happy birthday, coming from your constituents and all of your campaign team. I have never in my entire life of politics seen a more enthusiastic bunch of people willing to campaign on behalf of a candidate running, and that is not a UWP candidate, and running for Miku North. And I can tell you that the people who vote for Gail, they're not voting for her because they like her or they think that she did a good job. They're just voting for her out of partisan loyalty that they think is inescapable. But if we're going to change this country and develop a true national identity, then we must evolve beyond mindless surrender to voting Labour or voting UWP or any other party just because. So for me, those who are even looking to vote Labour or vote for Jeremiah Norbert, Do it because you see something policy-wise. Do it because you see something character-wise. Do it because you see a vision, or you see something that you can buy into that is good for your community, for yourself and your country. Outside of that, don't do it. We have to stop voting just because my family is Labour, or voting just because my family is UWP. No. In the meantime, let's get down to the plastic nature of politics. When we talk about AstroTurf and artificial fields, never forget that we are in an era of artificial politicians.
Shasne pull up in the yard, boy. Pull up in the yard, boy. Pull up there. Yeah. Now me say cheese. Yeah. Cheese for the camera. Right. Yeah. All right. Shasne pull up in the yard, boy. Pull up in the yard, boy. Pull up there. Yeah. Now me say cheese. Yeah. Cheese for the camera. Right. Yeah. All right.
So what happens when what should be the sideshow antics become the main event because there's such a lack of substance to the man, such a lack of substance to his tenure, and all people know is what they have suffered at the hands of an elitist tin pot dictator that is trying to get even more time to finish the job of liquidation of the nation and privatization and corporatization of anything, so that his friends and family and select foreigners that he can be in league with have shares in their company and all the rest, and we will never know about it until decades and generations after we are fully neo-colonized. That said, you have to ask yourself, if it's plastic, if it's fake, how does it work?
Coming again. It is election time. They will come again. Trying to get my vote. They are coming again. It is election time. They will come again. Trying to get my vote.
Hi, PM. I love this.
I go on my
Now for Cicero, I want to ask the question. When was the last time that Shasne went around Cicero? Not drove through on his way to and from somewhere, or actually, when was the last time Shasne made rounds in Cicero? In the last 4 3/4 of a year, in terms of his 5-year term. When was the last time? Let's think about that. Then you ask yourself, but here's the trick. So if you went to Point Seraphim and you saw a tourist come off the cruise ship and they were playing Dennery segment music, and you saw them try to dance without any rhythm, at first you would laugh, you would say kick, whatever. Eventually, somebody is going to start to feel sorry for the tourists and go and help them to dance. Nothing wrong with that, but it tells you that over time. So for example, even as Shasne goes now to Cicero or goes to some of these places where he hasn't been, remember this is a prime minister that after becoming prime minister for an entire year went out of the country, traveled so much, went through the credit card charges, doing more than Kenny Anthony in 5 years in office of the prime minister credit card charges, right? He did that in 9 months. He had more credit card charges, which we, the people, have to pay, related to his travel. The budgets for things like the Rich for health center had to be rerouted to pay for his travel expenses. Some places in Dubai, super rich places in the middle of London, I forget the name of the place. But after a whole year, only after the Labour Party had a protest, after a year, did he then decide, and I showed it to you a week or two ago, that he would go to visit Victoria Hospital and St. Jude's. A whole year as Prime Minister before he did that. So it's no accident that only now, when it is absolutely necessary, he found his way up to the golf club a number of times. He found his way up to Sandals Grand a number of times. He found his way to Dubai a number of times, to Canada a number of times, to Miami when he was shopping for his house, to Canada when he was shopping for his house, to Brooklyn, not Brooklyn, to Manhattan when he was going for his condo. He had no problem doing any of those things. But now to go to Cicerone. So here is the latest one, where he and the pious one herself are going to go into, they're going to Rose Hill, they're going into Wilton's Yard, aka the graveyard. They are now all of a sudden interested in Castries Central.
Yeah, that's a boss man. What's popping? One at a time. Wow, nice cucumber. The cucumbers. Prime Minister is live on, guys. Prime Minister is live. I know.
Nice cucumber, boss. Nice cucumbers. Never mind, I closed the marketing board. Never mind, I've disenfranchised the farmers and I wouldn't even give them $1,500 in the middle of COVID, along with my easy jackass Minister of Agriculture. Never mind that I'm giving the local farmers expired fertilizer, that when they put it on top of their soil, the rain can't even get through, it forms almost a plastic coating. Never mind that I refuse to try to diversify the economy in the middle of all of what was happening with COVID and the convulsions and exogenous shocks of tourism. But you know what, my brother? One day at a time. I now need your vote, so I'm going to come and compliment your cucumbers. Nice cucumbers, boss. Yeah. And the question is it working? Because here's the difference. If there are 80 to 100, no, let's say 100 people, nice round figure, of 100 people who are looking at Shastney and saying, out of that 100 people, 80 of them saying, God said, that man really fake, that man coming in. Doesn't matter to him. He has no shame. He has no moral compass. Never has, and he's proud of it. So he's looking at the 20 people. There are a couple who will try to come and use him. There are a couple who try to come and fleece him. It's the same way in Cicero. You didn't have a fella say, Gaza, hurry up and go and buy the drinks. Gaza, the boss sponsoring the drinks. Gaza, so go and buy it. So never mind no economic stimulus. Never mind no social safety nets. Never mind all what's happening in the, we are having the OKEU privatized as we speak, and we do not even have a national health insurance plan. So literally, our entire population is vulnerable to the price extortion that we're going to turn OKEU into a tapio. On steroids it will be. And think about that. But boss man, the same way you go into grocery, buy the chicken vans at least once a week, buying some drinks. And it tells you what he thinks of us. And the question is, after you saw the Vegley sticks the first time, and it worked, and you've suffered because of it, will it work on you again? I can't make up your mind for you. You have idiot hacks that come on the timelines and talk about, Gaza, the man giving us roads, eh? Look at them roads, look at the roads, right? They're unemployed. Their families' businesses are in tatters. Whether it's a restaurant, whether it's a bar, people don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. What curfew is 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock. Stay at your home. Go at your home. But when you're a tourist, you can go anywhere you want. And if you have the disease, you're fine if you're a tourist. But if you're a local, deaf to you. All of these anxieties, all of that. And you can come, walk around with no shame. No shame whatsoever. And just stay there and sit down. Oh yeah, let's show the picture where you mix in with the people. And let's show that picture, because I love the way that this picture, and I want to zoom in on Sarah first to show her no mask, and then I want to show Shasne with his no mask, and the power of the man pressing the flesh, going around, showing people. Sarah, the person that's supposed to be closest to God in the whole of St. Lucia after Dennis Springer, right, will turn around there now in her pious self, right, want to talk down to people about morality. Morality isn't only sex or homosexuality. It is, like they said, it's an act of charity is what the church said. Your Catholic church, what did they say? It's an act of charity to get the vaccine. An act of charity to wear your mask. But here you are, right? If you have one shot, you still haven't gotten the second one unless you took it ahead of time and you stole it out of the 23,000. And here you have Shasne on the very day that they're announcing tighter protocols. Now you have to be at your home at 3 o'clock on Sunday, 3 o'clock on Monday afternoon, right? Businesses again going through all kinds of revisions, convulsions. People don't know how they come in off flights and whether they'll be stopped if they're in transit from the airport, and all kinds of crap going haywire. But these two can actually stand up in the middle of people when they know that all of the population has not been fully vaccinated, that out of the people who have been vaccinated, only 20,000+ people, which is a good number, have gotten the first dose. And now all of a sudden the CMO and everybody saying that, and we can come off of that, the research shows that you don't need to get the second dose after 6 weeks or 8 weeks. You can now go for 12 weeks. And if we don't get the COVAX next week, like we were promised by the Prime Minister in his independence speech, that we would have gotten it by the middle of March, and now as of tomorrow it's April, then if it goes another week and we don't get it, or 2 weeks, then you'll just say the efficacy of it even grows better if you just wait however long it takes for us to get the vaccine. And this is the same person that will tell us about be my brother's keeper. If you love this person and that person, and you know, I'm gonna, if I have to get, if I have to rule of law, if I have to do this and I have to do that, if I have to lock down, then I'll do it. The man cannot even keep a mask just for the sake of politics. Sitting down there, he's not eating her. The drinking water is optional, and many of us have already learned how to just raise the mask enough if we have to drink water. It's very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. But here's the real question I have for you. Haven't we seen this before? Haven't we seen it before? I meant to ask him, we did the yellow shirt, they didn't have, all the yellow shirts were being washed, you didn't have any more. What's the last time you wore a black shirt, even in terms, oh yeah, that's when you go into certain place. What? I don't get it. I'm trying to understand. Is it to look slimmer? Is it whatever? But to me, the black shirt reminded me of the last time that you found yourself in impoverished communities, disenfranchised and marginalized communities. To me, you were going into, you were a big thing of going into Marsha, right? And you were the one that said that your experience in Marsha was that you played basketball in the gardens in Castries Central. So I didn't understand. But St. Lucia, it worked before. Will you let it work again?
Oh, so you've been Marsha once before? How long ago?
When I was a young boy, is the gardens I used to go.
So now you want to be Prime Minister, now you coming in Marsha?
So Castries is one of those critical economic zones. And so Castries has to provide jobs not only for Castries East, but for Castries North, for people living in Castries Central, people living in Castries South. So you have to bring industry back to it. It doesn't mean manufacturing, it means business.
Oh, okay, then tell the people why you moved the opening of jazz from Marsha. You didn't realize it would disenfranchise all these same people? So when you look at the roads, schools, refurbished stations, laptops, human resource centers, multipurpose courts, children's parks, refurbished fields, and overall progress of East Castries under Philip J. Pierre, là où est tout ça? Qui m'a dit au sorti qu'on voit?
Mouais fâché.
But you see, the problem is that ad didn't work. And Little did we know that Cambridge Analytica had told Shasney to make sure to start pushing Mwe Fache. You don't have to learn anything in your 50 plus years in St. Lucia. Right? You didn't care about St. Lucia. You never shat on St. Lucia. You never went to any of these places. But for political expediency in pure plastic politics, you came out there and you had the Cambridge Analytica people teach you how to say I'm angry, and then the slogan of fear, yo pair, and it worked. So the question is, St. Lucia, for all that you have experienced, for all that you have suffered, for all that you will continue to suffer, you who feel it and know it, will you vote for it to continue? Will you vote for your children to continue to be treated as hop and drop by Gail Regobert while she checks for her villas and her Propel company? Will you continue to allow Sarah Flood to get out of bankruptcy proceedings, which are supposed to prohibit her from running by law in the first place? The pious one herself did something in contradiction of our Elections Act, but then now, she already built another house in Cap Estate. What more? To continue to run her passports covering company, book covering company, inside of the ministry. She's a minister of External Affairs, and inside the passport office, in pure conflict of interest. You're going to vote for that and continue to be marginalized? I wonder if he gave everybody that he went and saw $1,000, what would be the difference? Oh yeah, man, you know, both parties doing that bullshit. But then on top of that, $1,000, even if he gave you $1,000, that would work out to 54 cents a day. But you know what the real problem is? Any man that thinks he can buy you has the right to believe that he owns you. And if you listen to Shasney in all of his pronouncements and the manner in which he has treated us, he continues to act like he owns us. And he himself is owned by people like Guy Joseph. So when you see Sarah coming by the CDC, always remember, this is the government that likes to knock buildings down. Guy gets to put in concreto and all of them. Then you hear the materials go down to Guy Joseph's brother's land in Labey. Yes, that's a fact. The National Trust tracked it. Then you hear this contract going to Fresh Start, that one going to Skelly, that one going to FDL, that one going to Mangal, and all the rest of the players. Do you want more of that? Because I'll ask specifically for the CDC. Guy Joseph already promised you all that he's going to knock down the CDCs even before the end of this term. So we still have a month or two. Maybe he'll come good on that promise. Do like what they did with the police. Knock down the headquarters, don't have the money to build another headquarters, and now have to be renting space from the FFF in order to have police quarters. Both Castries, Vieux Fort, all over the place. Then turn around now, you in the CDC, all of y'all, all the people by Sweetie Car Wash, all of those in the new CDC. St. Louis, good afternoon to you. Ben, all the rest of y'all. Here's my question. If Guy does not knock down the CDC now, and the people vote for them, are Shasney and Guy not right if the day after they get re-elected, if they make good on their promise?
I agree with you for the knocking down of the CDCs, and I expect these CDCs to be knocked down before the end of my term in office.
Mr. Minister.
Hello.
Do you know the difference between a leader and a ruler? And if not, I am guaranteed that the electorate will teach you or will illustrate to you the difference between a leader and a ruler. You guys were elected to lead and not to rule.
Joseph, President of the Boseju Community Group. We believe St. Lucia can win the war against the coronavirus, and here's how. Every community in St. Lucia must mobilize, coordinate, monitor and support residents the way we would before, during and after a natural disaster. Identify volunteers in your community, assign them roles and deploy them. Ensure your elderly and vulnerable understand all protocols. Help relatives, shield them from unnecessary contact with others. Identify those recently unemployed and vulnerable neighbors living alone. Put systems in place to filter updates from official sources throughout your community. Promote the hotline number 311. If it takes a village to raise a child, then all of us can come together to defend the village against the coronavirus. Let's do it.
Together let us win this war. St. Lucia be a soldier. Together we can beat this corona.
Oh.
DJ on the beat.
How I make you just a cock it up, back it up, fling it up on me so heaven in your waistline when you make it roll. Girl I road tell me say them have it too, but none of them don't have it like you. When it come to whining skill, girl you know you are the baddest. Them a dancehall queen, but you a dancehall goddess. Then girl I road really need little practice, but everything I need, girl you have it. I use a professional bump and roller, qualified waistline controller. You a bubbling general, them girl they just a bubbling soldier. Use a professional bump and roller, qualified waistline controller. If them girl they a bubbling boss, you a bubbling CEO. Yeah, I work 7 days straight feet. All I hope and pray feet. And if them
Minor Basilica of the Immaculate Conception says common sense should have prevailed following a disruption in a funeral service which occurred on Monday, March 22nd. Officiate of the recently held service, Father Michel Francis, has called for further training for some COVID-19 wardens. Senior news correspondent Cecil Actil reports.
COVID-19 wardens entered the Minor Basilica of the Immaculate Conception late Monday afternoon and disrupted a funeral service. A video surfaced on social media Monday, March 22nd, shows officers in plainclothes and uniformed COVID-19 wardens.
Officers and wardens, please. You are now causing a nuisance and disturbance to the service. I know you have a job. I know you have a role to perform. But when at this time you want to put somebody out, it becomes a nuisance.
The officiating priest, Father Michel Francis, appeals to the officers.
Officers and wardens, please. I don't think they're even listening to me. Officers and wardens, please. You all are now causing a nuisance, a disturbance to the service. I know you have a job. I know you have a role to perform. But when at this time you want to put somebody out, it becomes a nuisance. It becomes an embarrassment.
At the time, a group of attendees and viewers, including family members and friends, on the live stream witnessed the drama unfold. Father Francis says what transpired at the church was not meant for public consumption. However, Monsignor Michel stated that he was in the middle of his sermon when he noticed the confusion taking place inside the church. The wardens were issued a list of approved names of persons allowed to enter the funeral, but conducted a check during the service.
This should be there ahead of time. time, so that as people arrive, they check their names and tick them off. But to check those names while people are seated, which caused the service to be delayed. And when I thought that all was over, and in the middle of the service, because I'm already giving my homily, which means that the entrance song with receiving the body before that, and the readings, all of these have been done, and the homily, or what people may call the sermon, that was the point at which I was, only to realize that, as I said, the people were not connecting with me because of that distraction.
According to Monsignor Michel, there was an extra person, and as a result, the warden insisted the mourner leave.
I am not in any way putting the wardens down, but I think there has to be some kind of sensitivity that, if this one person, is not in the list, my goodness, why, let us leave it alone and do not cause a disturbance of my service. It was not any noise that was emanating from whatever exchange they were having, but the congregation was caught up with what was going on.
Father Mitchell observed that there is a level of professionalism in the Labrie and Viewfort parishes because, according to him, the COVID-19 wardens show up ahead of time.
It would not necessitate people having to be seated already in church and for you to come and tell them they're not on the list and they may have to leave. You understand? So yes, maybe there needs to be more training for some people, but at the same time too, I believe that common sense should prevail in matters like these, and there is a time when you don't fight a situation. You understand? If it is one individual, be commonsensical about it and drop it.
Before the funeral service concluded, Father Francis apologized to mourners, asserting that as of February 1st, new protocols were instituted. He said that the attendance for funeral services were increased from 25 to 50 persons. He further stated that the names of attendees must be submitted to the parish office, police commissioner, and the nearest police station in an effort to avoid any type of confusion. Father Mitchell also disclosed that funeral services should be by invitation only, and the date and time should not be advertised in an effort to keep within the numbers. The Castries Archbishop, in a statement, told me that wardens have a clear role to play, but sometimes persons with authority need to be able to make a good judgment on their feet.
It is so sad that we have reached this point in St. Lucia. Such a lack of leadership, ad hocism has become normalized. You have people being trained to enforce law where they cannot even be prosecuted. There is no form of legal redress for any of us if we are abused or our rights and civil liberties are taken advantage of. And at the end of all of that, to know that many of these, in fact not many, the training was 1 week on Zoom. If 1 week on Zoom can make you a police officer and give you the powers of the police officers, why do we have a police academy? Let's think about that. You've trivialized the law enforcement agency of St. Lucia, and now, as everything goes haywire, and you have field slaves versus house slaves, and St. Lucians, instead of being allowed to maintain their peaceable modus operandi, instead of taking law enforcement that was already there and perhaps paying them overtime or whatever, right? Or taking the time to train people properly, if it were not just a ploy to give a blight to some unemployed people who would have been better off if they were in farm labor support or doing some other type of work. Then the question now becomes, where do we go? How does this go? Because we have COVID. Even if we get the full population vaccinated, that's not going to happen now, because even the US State Department has noted that when it comes to COVAX, while most of the countries in the Caribbean have signed up to COVAX, they know that it's a global race and lobbying in order to get vaccines. So the countries who have signed up to COVAX, all except one, according to the US State Department, are also on their own looking and trying to get vaccines through private lobbying and means, and they're using their diplomatic corps. Our diplomatic corps, like people like Al Landers, are busy using our state resources to pay for hotel rooms for Russell. And in the meantime, we are the only country in the Caribbean, as per the State Department documents that I just saw last night, that is not doing anything but relying on COVAX. And anything else is a donation that came from a friendly government or a friend of a friendly government, like when we got through Barbados and Dominica. Now that said, let's think about the trauma that COVID has done, the impact of not only COVID, but our response. You know what it is for a child to see adults who have no clue what to do in the middle of a pandemic, or to see themselves marginalized in situations where their parents should protect them, feed them, make sure they get educated, and instead, haywire, hop and drop, go to school, a couple of your friends get the virus, come back, stay home. The Minister of Education says you can have too much education, so let's dumb you down. And in all of that now, the young people are going stir crazy because they've been good for a year. The most of St. Lucia has been compliant. They continue to comply. But at the end of the day, they see the double standards. So now we have to go to Mabuya Valley. Let's go to Dennery. This is not the way Dennery segment should be, having young people running away from COVID wardens because they're trying to play some football.
My flash on?
Yeah, G. There is something.
Team dude.
And while chaos continues to be normalized, and we continue to pretend that everything is all right in all of this, let us also bear in mind that on what should have been a time for reflection, you have somebody who says he has no philosophical or moral underpinnings. He's a pragmatist to the bone, which means none of these things matter. He'll just do and say whatever. If he has to say sorry, beg for forgiveness, read a prayer or two because he cannot speak from the heart, right, or the soul, then basically he'll do whatever. So now, and the most important part of the calendar for any Christian, not just a Catholic, now the way of the cross has had to make way for the way of the boss.
We have a question from Zane Romulus of DBS via the Zoom chat. Are tourism-related properties included in the prohibition of the sale and consumption of alcohol? If not, why not? Minister, I know you're wearing the hat of Chairman of the Command Center today, but also as Minister of Tourism, if you could address this question.
Well, what a difficult task countries all over the world are facing to strike the balance between keeping their economy afloat. In this case, the cash cow or the backbone of our economy is the tourism industry. We have got some 6,000 people back at work. I'm happy. You know, we lost some 15,000 jobs. And, you know, this is happening at a time when we were gaining that momentum. But also, importantly, is that should something happen, we need to be connected to the rest of the world. We know, for example, that a number of our people, our population, they depend on medical services overseas. Just think about it. If there were no flights, if we had to close all the hotels, then there would be no reason for the planes to come. We as a population, it just doesn't make it commercially viable for us to keep the flights rolling. And so therefore, I think for two reasons, we have to keep the tourism sector going. One, to ensure that connectivity by keeping the planes flying for our population. And two as well, there are just thousands of our citizens that rely on the jobs that the tourism industry generate. And so those are the two main reasons as we have to give it. Now, with whatever limited ability for people to travel or the demand that we see, because you've got all these restrictions in Canada, the UK, are very, very tough, and
Today happens to be inauguration day in the States, and we are not sure what will happen in the US. And so as the demand continues to be soft, we have to make sure that whatever ounce of economic extraction we can, that we do so. No one will want to fly to a tourism destination where they can't have a glass of wine. That becomes impractical and impossible. Also, I think that when we look at the science, we have not seen much evidence to suggest that there is a transmission rate of the virus from hotel guests to employees at hotels. No one will want to fly to a tourism destination where they can't have a glass of wine. That becomes impractical and impossible. The sale of alcohol has been suspended at supermarkets, mini-marts, gas stations, restaurants, and bars. Additionally, public consumption of that's alcohol. That confused me a little bit. Public consumption of alcohol is also prohibited, particularly as a feature in small social gatherings, at public beaches, at rivers, etc.
There is a public understanding in some quarters that the police force seem to have singled out individuals.
Yes, the answer to that is yes and no.
Warden's in tongue, he may say. Then pick up a man name, my brother.
Again, Warden's in tongue.
I'm not right to record. We got a minute.
Whichever side, whether it is the government in power, whether it is the opposition, if permission is not granted, you cannot have the event and the police will stop it.
You know, the guys said that they had permission to use the field. They were doing a recording for the Prime Minister. Constable insisted. He just spoke to Estefan, and Estefan said he has no knowledge of what's going on the playing field. You understand? The person who put on the light said Estefan spoke to him like 2 days before and told him there will be an event from 6 to 8, so put on the lights, you know, for the guys. So how come you saying you just spoke to Estefan and Estefan say he has no knowledge about what's going on the field? The guy came to him, told him, we're doing that for the Prime Minister.
The police will be taking any action against Prime Minister Alan Chastney and members of Parliament who were seen on video breaching several social distancing protocols in communities such as Orleans, Choiseul, Soufrière and Ancillary last weekend.
I want to assure the public that I am a commissioner for the people, right? Yes. I'm a commissioner for police officers. And it's not a commissioner for any individual political party. I'm the commissioner for St. Lucia, and I'll see to it that all St. Lucians, or everybody, gets fair treatment. Everybody would be treated alike, and that there would be no individual favors given to any groups and so on.
That's bullshit, shit. Break it down, fellas. Bullshit.
Can't believe all that bullshit, all that bullshit. You're way out of line with the bullshit, all that bullshit.
I did hear the president of the St. Lucia Hospitality and Tourism Association yesterday giving a small piece regarding the current situation, and she was saying that we only have had about 53 or so persons coming in who have tested positive, 53 non-nationals.
Since July 2020, we have hosted approximately 45,000 visitors, all of whom are required to adhere to very strict protocols. To date, there have only been 53 COVID-positive cases diagnosed that were non-nationals.
That's a really high number considering that we're not doing any testing really of non-nationals. If you were telling me that every single person who came in as a non-national was actually tested on island and we knew, okay, that number 53 was coming out of that pool, right? That would certainly mean a lot. But how many really did we actually ever test? Because we were only ever testing persons who may not have come in with the right test done, or may have had some sort of symptoms, or may have shown to have been symptomatic at the time when they came in.
In terms of the visitors, we put in the strictest protocols.
Unless if we are willing to prioritize our own people and their welfare, and including the welfare of individuals who are expected to go out to work, who are being asked to go out into these areas, which are effectively high-risk environments. And we're asking them to do so, but we're not ensuring that they are being able to do so in a truly safe environment. Because what we have currently is not quarantine. It's really not quarantine. And I think if anything we should be learning from the month of January, it is that. But it does not appear, based on what we're seeing coming out of the statements made by the Prime Minister yesterday, that there's a willingness to change. That there's really a willingness to go the route of doing what is necessary to be able to protect the lives of people at this point in time. And this is perhaps a difficult reality and a difficult truth to speak, but it has to be spoken. Because we are dealing with human beings, and we can all take the responsibility of wearing our mask. But if we are wearing our mask and the visitor is not wearing theirs, then it defeats the whole point, because really and truly you wear your mask to prevent yourself from spreading the disease. That's the first and foremost reason why you're wearing your mask. That's actually the biggest benefit from mask wearing, so that you do not infect somebody else. So if you have a situation where all the staff are properly wearing their masks, and you have visitors, guests at properties who aren't wearing their masks, there's still a major risk that we're dealing with.
And you know what the major risk is, even beyond COVID? That we have allowed these things to become normalized. That we'll get berated by people like the Beaufest man and Herod Marius and Jukwa and all the rest, and Ricole and all of the hacks will turn around and they will try to make you feel like what should offend you shouldn't offend you, and you're ungrateful or something like that. But let's think about this. Again, I state, COVID exists in reality. But our tourism product does not exist in reality. It's about Fantasy Island. It's a Caribbean brand for one of the vestiges of colonialism, where you can come to escape reality. Even life-threatening diseases don't matter. And the highest risk that St. Lucia has is still pervasively what's coming through in terms of hotel tourism visitor arrivals. Yes, I'm happy to hear that there are a number of staff at different hotels who have gotten the vaccine, but we are nowhere near herd immunity when it comes to that. And even then, we still, for people's constitutional rights, are supposed to protect against those who do not want to take the vaccine. Because there are people who may have legitimate reasons in terms of even their state of pre-existing conditions who may not want to, as well as those who probably need to take the vaccine. But that said, think about how conditioned we are as a people in terms of media and social media. That once 3 weeks pass, we get tired of a story. You think Chasney and his consultants and the Cambridge Analytica and all of those people haven't realized the cadence with which we care, we rage, we outrage, and then we give up? Remember, we were talking all about making sure and lobbying for a second test. The SLHTA said we need to have a second test. Former CMO, the head of the SLMDA, Stephen King, was saying second test. So many people around were talking about the second test. Right now, we're shutting down Easter. We still have no second test for visitors. There are new variants, which in the United States and the UK, they are even saying in the UK now, as I saw this morning, that they may extend all the way to autumn, in other words, August, their travel bans, because they want to make sure not only do people get vaccinated for this current variant, but they may have to come with a third shot. So you see how the goalposts keep shifting from first dose, second dose. They are now talking in the UK about having a third dose so that you can have a booster shot for the other variants. And what's to say it will not become 4 and become 5? And still we do nothing with our tourists. Still they get to walk around all the hotels with no mask. So imagine you get your first job, you get your second job, you use a papa job. Now you go into the hotel and another variant comes in. And once again we are right back to square one. And the point I'm trying to make is that fundamentally, like I said, way of the cross has gone on its way of the boss. Chasney and this government's asinine model of tourism at the expense of everything else in the economy. All the small businesses and other sectors that cannot even benefit from the linkages of tourism. All of the entertainment sector and so many tours that cannot operate. All of the restaurants and all of those who cannot get any small business assistance. Talking about loans. If people don't know how they're going to make their business work, they'll go and take loans from y'all through SLDB. But think about this, folks. We are right now, we gave up Christmas. We gave it up. Unless you were a police officer in Cap Estate who had a party for UWPs, you didn't get to have your Christmas and your New Year's parties. You didn't get to do all what you wanted to do. You had all these tourists who came down and they got their Christmas. They had their fun in the hotels. They got to have their little blockos inside of there. Oh, you can't expect the tourists not to have a glass of wine. They're drinking when we're on alcohol ban. Their weddings go ahead while St. Lucians want to get married in supposedly the #1 wedding destination in the whole, and honeymoon destination in the whole world. They cannot get married. Hey, they have to go where? Bali? Somebody that wants to get married in a church in Bexar cannot do that now. They cannot do that, right? But at the same time, funerals, everything, we on lockdown. In the meantime, the tourists get to live by a complete, total double standard. And we still know that they are the greatest threat to us. Not the in-country transmission. That came because of, as the Prime Minister said, all our cases came from overseas. How do you get the UK variant in St. Lucia? They didn't call it the Lucian variant. But you see, like I said, Peter continues to pay for Paul and all of his bobble. And now we go into this weekend. A weekend that's supposed to be characterized by solemnity. Instead, it has been characterized by restriction.
Over the last few weekends, as a country, we have noticed that there has been a lot of social activity, especially on the weekends, which could bring even more COVID-19 cases into St. Lucia.
Illegal mass gatherings all around the island may have resulted in a drastic adjustment to curfew hours for the Easter weekend. Senior Communications Officer in the Office of the Prime Minister, Nicole MacDonald, says the tight curfew hours have been implemented to avoid an upswing in COVID-19 cases.
The curfew adjustment for the weekend will be as follows. On Thursday, the curfew will begin from 7 p.m. On Friday, the curfew will begin from 7 p.m. On Saturday, the curfew will begin from 6 p.m. And on Sunday and Monday, the curfew will begin from 3 p.m. On all of those days, the curfew ends at 4 a.m.
Some quarters have labeled it COVID-19 fatigue, where individuals find themselves skirting protocols to escape the reality of the pandemic. Officials warn such practices may set the island back in curtailing the spread of the virus.
I think everybody is frustrated and tired of COVID. Everybody has had enough at this point. We've been a year through this. We want to get back to normal life, and I see this as one of the faster ways to get back to normal life.
Chief Medical Officer Dr. Sharon Belmar George reminds the public that a fourth wave could become a reality if public health measures are disregarded.
We're a little concerned about all of the activities happening around the communities, but we just want the public to be patient and continue working with us. If we can keep our cases down, keep our active cases to below 50, then we'll be able to live a fairly normal life and open up a little bit more. We're working with a number of organizations to continue and to get back to a level of normalcy. We want to be able to continue that in the coming months.
As St. Lucia stares down a long Easter weekend, officials say the extreme curfew hours are not a form of a reprimand, but part of a preemptive strategy.
This is about us coming together and recognizing that with the less socialization that we have, we will be able to get to a point where we can relax some of the measures. But we have to work together on this.
With the fallout of the post-Christmas holiday spike still fresh in the minds of the authorities, all eyes are now trained on the outcome of Holy Weekend.
The St. Lucia Labour Party has called for the newly announced curfew restrictions to be applied to all St. Lucians across the board. Speaking during a press conference on Tuesday, First Deputy Political Leader Ernest Hilaire stressed that COVID-19 remains a very real threat and urged all St. Lucians to abide by the necessary protocols at all times. However, Hilaire has argued that these protocols cannot be selectively applied to the people of St. Lucia.
We do not believe there should be two St. Lucias. Already we have situations where some can play golf when they really ought not to, but our footballers cannot practice for World Cup qualifiers. We really believe there should be one St. Lucia. There are bars we know in this country that are open beyond the stipulated times. And yet we also know that other people with the rum shops are being arrested and charged. They should not be open. We condemn them being open beyond the stipulated times. But what happened to the others? We cannot have a tale of two St. Lucias.
The opposition member suggested that this alleged selective application also has implications for political activities in the height of an election year.
And we are hearing that the same weekend that times have been adjusted, that there is ongoing political activity by a particular candidate. And we're wondering, and we've seen the flyers, and we say, well, how can you have a fun walk with hundreds of people, and at the same time, we cannot have a spot meeting from the back of a van, speaking to people in their homes? Can we be consistent in the application of the protocols? And who sanctioned that? Who approved the fun walk? Who is going to provide protection on the road? Is it the police? The same police that is arresting some guys for walking, coming from work late at nights and whatnot? So we believe there should be protocols. We believe it should be respected by the population. And we encourage solutions that it is for your best to observe the protocols. But we are calling on the government, stop applying the protocols with favoritism.
The government and health officials recently noted with concern that there has been an increase in social gatherings. According to Hilaire, while it is necessary to ensure such activities do not take place, protocols should be introduced with greater consideration.
Easter weekend, we know tradition is a weekend when people get together and families get together. If the problem is the beaches, then shut down the beaches for the weekend. If the problem is people having river lines, ban river lines. But should you deny me going to my mother's house on Easter Sunday? Or if I go to a house, I have to leave before 3 o'clock because the curfew starts at 3 o'clock. But why can't my family gather for our usual Easter gathering on Sunday or Monday? If the problem is the beaches, then say that no access to the beaches for the weekend. Or we only allow in family gatherings of no more than 10 or 15 people. Say that.
St. Lucia is expected to revert to a 9 p.m. to 4 a.m. curfew from Tuesday, April 6th after the Easter weekend.
In all of this, once again, I go back to John Peters saying that the government, sadly, is basically prosecuting its case with regards to the COVID pandemic based on ad hocism. Now, is it that there was sound medical advice and that is what that led to the decision that was made here? Or could it just be that because the Prime Minister in his politicking allowed the same opportunistic hacks that produced and were working for independence and doing his music video montage, is it that because they were given permission by the Prime Minister to film in Dennery and went past the curfew times and caused a problem because the law enforcement in Dennery was saying that they would need to arrest people who were out there and over there in the Dennery playing field, the AstroTurf playing field or the AstroTurf playing field, whichever one you want to call it, the cancer field? That is it that because the officers that were in charge said that they would arrest people who went there because that was not a sanctioned event, but yet the Prime Minister asked for it to be done in pure preference. And we all know Daisy and them will not do anything about what the Prime Minister does, in the same way that these same protocols became enacted at the same time that the Prime Minister is sitting in Castries Central without a mask and Sarah Flood without a mask. So is it that the police got fed up and started to push back and said that considering they are overworked, considering they are underpaid, and considering they are seeing the double standard, that there was a mini rebellion in the way of equity and justice? Or that can't be right.
On the people read more the parliament by, but my no. But when you Nicole so do parler, there is a letter, a famous letter. Oui, Nicole Mavlo vin di nou ki sa ki en let la. Let la yo voye zo a. Oui.
Wow.
Yo voye yo an let.
The wow letter.
The wow letter.
The wow letter.
We want to know more about the wow letter. The wow letter.
Platate, plat dong.
Wow letter, c'est ici, vous avez cherché si vous avez vous avez défendu. Ça pas bon c'est ici. Est-ce que wow letter c'est un go let? Et wow letter c'est part of puchi vous avez venir comme curfew ça c'est ici pour week-end ça là. On même yo il a cassé loi. T'entends ça?
Plat dong eh, plat.
On même yo a croisé loi.
Plat dong.
And then a certain section where wow letter. Now wow letter you got there then. C'est letter jaim. It's a powerful man.
What do you flat dong platate?
Letter Premier ministre là ni yek yo tout. Letter. But letter de jouer. Wow.
Alright, Munsadi, I can't see it, but it's there. There's a lot of emojis.
Me amundi mwen gazo mwen vle we let la. Let la. Let la. Wa. Ki las ki president am welfare actuellement gaza?
Ye body nou.
Welfare Association. Police welfare, pas welfare association, police welfare. Qui est-ce qui est président?
Pas Chico. Chico.
Ah, Chico?
Yes.
Chico où?
Chico gaza.
Wa.
Moi écrit, moi dit, Mama, Papa, à la strength. Comité salvation, juste les mailles. Anti-pays, qui jamais mal pied. Politiciens, ça praille, choué pour vrai. Mais des ministres, ça dit qu'ils t'es science. Mon Dieu, y'en pour figuer, y'en a les vacances. Maman descend pas ouais, chanter. Bagaille, garder les mauvais. Moi tenir un computer là, délai-moi voir nous manière yo fixer
Oui, c'est plaisir.
The wow letter.
Let ça, c'est un dangereux let. Now, est-ce que let ça? Bouchi ma mouchi let ça là actuellement. Source will be implicated, c'est ici. On n'est pas sorry about ça. On n'est pas sorry about ça. Mais est-ce que toute décision où est qu'à jouer là, now on a envoyé un texte by Nicole. Pour dire Nicole, vin at least brief nous les lettres là. Puis lettres là, il était chaud en cabinet. Lettre ça ouais là, c'est ici. Ça était chaud en cabinet.
By la ho.
Oui, lettre ça dangereux tellement.
It is tall.
Il y a gouvernement fou, avec fâché. Oui, bon. Qui a-ce beaucoup de débat dans les derniers fils là, gars?
C'est toujours mot ça.
Bah, ils ont causé chaque quand vous savez, internally vous savez, ça pas blague vous savez.
But this thing was all over the place. Qui laisse quitter ça, qui laisse qui pas de ça.
Bon, maintenant des idées, il y a beaucoup commencé à ouiter. Nous maintenant qui laisse si c'est politicien, mais pas politicien. Des idées. Au gars, tu boire, c'est ça.
So what do you think? Do you think this was about the best medical advice being adhered to? Do you think it is the police pushing back because they see the inequity and are being asked to participate in farcical exercises of policing one set of people while another set of people, particularly members of the United Workers' Party or their affiliates, get to do whatever they want in the middle of a pandemic and a disease that doesn't discriminate? What do you think? You think that the Police Welfare Association pushed back and told Daisy, we know you're a puppet, but we're not standing for that? Do you think that's what happened? Well, the result is that even the Prime Minister's Prime Minister, Guy Joseph, will not get to have his fun walk. But I already had my shoes. I was already ready to go because I know COVID doesn't go wherever Flubbo is. It's only Labour Party according to them. You know, that kind of a thing.
Okay, I'd like to say good night to you, sir. Mr. Commissioner is definitely logged in. There's something that we wish to clarify, and I saw a mention of it in this Facebook live streaming chat, that there is this going out in social media, and I believe that there is a flyer somewhere circulating where there is a walk planned, and from what I'm hearing, I'm just saying from what I'm hearing, allegedly planned by a political figure from Bexar, I think it's Mr. Guy Joseph, I think. So I'd like to inform everyone that the Commissioner's Office has not given approval for any events for this weekend. So I'll repeat again, the Commissioner's Office has not given any approval. And if any approval was made, that permission has since been cancelled and withdrawn. So there are no walks or anything like that approved for this weekend by the Commissioner's Office. So I just wanted to make sure that we make that clear. So fun walks, picnics, gatherings, etc., not given approval, and even if it was approved, the permission has since been withdrawn by the Commissioner's Office.
Well, I have to say I agree with the decision at the end, because if there cannot be a procession or walk to the Calvary, then how can Guy Joseph have a walk? This is the same person that went to the House and passed a law to make sure that nomination day cannot be held on his Sabbath, and yet for the last couple of years has been having drink-ups and cricket matches on Good Friday when the rest of St. Lucia has an alcohol ban from time immemorial. So, okay. Or was it because the imminent threat of having people who do not support Guy Joseph coming to an event which would have been allowed to happen if people like me did not say that I was going to go? Did that force the police hand? Now, let's not think about that. Let's just think about all what the tourists and visitors can do that we can't.
Good Friday is a holiday for many, and for Christians around the world, it's an important, somber day. I'm Natish Basona outside the St. Francis of Assisi Church, where earlier today thousands participated in this year's Good Friday procession, a tradition still going strong. Good Friday procession. It's a tradition 5 decades in the making here in Little Italy. Put on by the St. Francis of Assisi Church, this marks the 56th year of the reenactment that symbolized the path Jesus is believed to have walked before being crucified. And for many in this community, the march here is a combination of religion and tradition.
Well, no matter what, we're going to have a lot of people, we're going to have a lot of psychological distress. We're going to have that over this country. That is the biggest problem that St. Lucia has beyond the economic implications, is that nobody's keeping track of the psychological distress. The most important event on the Christian calendar is now to be sidelined. And whatever the rationale, whether you believe it's real or imagined, whether it's justified or unjustified, the fact of the matter is one thing that we will not be able to see the effects of is how much it damages people's psyche to be forced to be alone in a time when man as a gregarious animal would want to congregate. And in really, let's face it, it has to be the least festive of events on our calendar is probably Easter. The most reflective, the most solemn, the one that calls for the most thought and depth and deep reflection, even if you aren't a Christian, the overall mood. And even in losing that, you really have to ask yourself that you really hope it's worth it, not because of COVID. If I believe that it was all about COVID, fine. But if it was all about COVID, there would be second testing in the hotels. There will be Easter in the hotels. There will be visitors walking around without masks and going on tours all over St. Lucia. And in the meantime, Peter will continue to pay for Paul. Whether it's saints or not, he will pay for all. So, all I can say is, even the Easter Bunny now on lockdown.
Hey, cancel Easter. Now, you don't pay attention to nothing. Cancel Easter? Well, who the hell cancel Easter? The Pope. The Pope cancel Easter. You try to tell me the holiest man in the world canceled the holiest day of the year? Yes, that's right. He canceled. And what are we going to tell the kids? This year, Jesus is not going to resurrect. He's going to stay in the cave, isolate himself because of the coronavirus? Then change the please and I'll start. No, I'm serious. And what are you going to tell the kids? No Easter Bunny this year? And did anybody call the Easter Bunny? Maybe I should call him. Hello, Easter Bunny. Yeah, just want to give you a heads up. Maybe you should file for unemployment because this year you're not going to work. Please. And I'll be a wise ass, okay?
Little Sheila, in love with this drug dealer. Unfair the playing, unfair the whipping. Little Sheila, still a high footballer. She would not reason, she would not listen. Gotcha, come know what is playing. Foolish Sheila was his name. Man every night, holding her tight, stretching up the fight, getting through her eyes. 3 months but she doing well, 6 months but she belly's well. Down back, good back, the back. 3 months but she doing well, 9 months but she must have hell. Down back, good back, the back. Now he did it back, to do like the back back. Took some of my back, who's that book I found back. Hey! Down back, good back, the back.
You're watching UTV, TV for you.
Did you get the COVID-19 vaccine? Then you may experience one or a combination of side effects, or even no side effects at all. Side effects may include pain or tenderness in the area where you got the vaccine. You may also notice a little swelling or redness. To manage these, you may apply a clean, cool, wet washcloth or an ice pack over the area. Throughout your body, you may feel chills, fever, nausea, joint pain, tiredness, headache, or muscle pain. To manage this discomfort, you should get plenty of rest. Drink fluids, but avoid alcohol and caffeine. If you need to manage pain, you may take paracetamol, not aspirin. You may continue to take all medications prescribed for you for your health condition. Vaccinate. For you, for yours, for us.
Parce que madame m'a quitté, moi y'a que ça qui a bon moi problème. Sans moi quitter, moi y'a que ça qui a bon moi problème. Madame m'a quitté, moi y'a que ça qui a bon moi problème. Sans moi quitter, moi y'a présent, moi ni worries, moi do. Non madame, non c'est Evelyn. Non ni un piti, yo couillé Jilin. Et quitte qu'elle a depuis Sunday morning. Mais à présent, il y a Sunday evening. Avec ma fouti pas ça, ouais, Evelyn. Yo fais moi à quoi il n'y a Lord Darling. Et j'ai castré avec ouais, Dr. King. C'est pour ça, madame, moi, moi,
UTV, TV for you.
Who drinking it first? UTV. Who drinking it first? UTV. Yo, this is Hollywood HB. Bigging up UTV. You don't know the baddest and the greatest. UTV underground station. You mad? Rrr.
Thank you for staying with the Revolution. Now I want to give you a mental primer. And to be honest with you, I suspect most who are opposed to this government and their modus operandi, whether it's the formal opposition or just people in general in the general population, not necessarily politically affiliated, I want to give you a primer into something that nobody is really coming to terms with. Let's look at what we just went through. The whole thing of whether Guy Joseph is going to have a walk, whether there's a double standard in terms of policing and COVID, and who can have events and who can have parties, which bars can be open, which can't, the two St. Lucias, the UWP New St. Lucia, that's called the Pearl of the Caribbean, and the rest of us who are being punished for wanting to remain the Helen of the West Indies and are being marginalized into non-existence. Now, the primer is this. This government has a very, and the Prime Minister said it, an amoral, pragmatic approach. Its law is only as good as its enforcement. Crime only matters if there are consequences to the crime. You want an example? I'll give you a simple analogy. Before, and Barack Obama put it in a different way, if you stole and you got caught, you know, I come, I take that pen, I've used this, I said this before, you come, you take that pen, that's a bond, hey, that man thief in the pen, that man thief in the pen. I put it back, I say, sorry, don't arrest me, don't charge me. I have shame. But the psychologists have figured out how powerful wrong and strong is. That if while you take in the pen, you say, I'm doing it, I'm tipping it, I'm taking it, stop it, right? Since when that's your role? Then nothing for that. People fail, outrage, they do whatever, but no consequence. Give you a simple example. This government is the body most responsible for our societal upkeep in terms of the Constitution and the rule of law. They have gone for an entire term and they will not appoint a deputy speaker. You know what? Nothing for that, and that's how they deal. So when I hear people like former President of the Senate and electoral expert Claudius Francis talk about how if there's election day fraud, we can film it, Labour Party can protest, or this one can bring in their lawyers and file injunctions and all the rest of that type of stuff. I don't have much faith in that, because these guys are not trying to fool or to thief or to get for themselves or to rob the country blind. They're not trying to do it indefinitely. They're just trying to do it for as long as they want to do it, because they believe, and so far they are right, that we can't get back at them, that we cannot stop it. So if they steal the election, there's nothing that we can do, because we've proven that we are not a people that will riot, that will make sure that we put a government out if they are unduly or undemocratically elected. Let's think about this. So what's going to happen this weekend? You know what? Let's be honest. Guy Joseph will probably still have something, because it's too deep into his politics and he's too well known for having something. They will hope that people like me will not go around the constituency looking for it, but I will. And anywhere I catch any government operative having any function on behalf of themselves at the government or the United Workers' Party, I'll make sure to try and film it. I'll encourage others to do it. But when it does happen, and it has already happened before, nothing for that. Daisy will come, and like I said, if there's one thing the police cannot complain about is a lack of ammunition, because the kind of bullets Langlu will fire to make excuse for Shastri and them again. But you see, that's the point. It's the wrong and strong. St. Lucians have fatigued as a people and allowed things to become normalized, because wrong and strong, unless it is stopped in its tracks, it works. So I'm going to give you an example of how wrong and strong can literally have corruption normalized, to the point where you have to ask yourself, do these guys even believe that they know? Do they even know the difference between right and wrong? What is that amoral sensibility, and how does it police itself, if at all? So I want to show again the definition of a conflict of interest. This is the kind of stuff that people get arrested for, go to jail for, that laws and constitutions are amended to protect against. Conflict of interest, a situation in which the concerns or aims of two different parties are incompatible. The conflict of interest between elected officials and corporate lobbyists. A situation in which a person is in a position to derive personal benefits from actions or decisions made in their official capacity. We can come off of that. So again, I'm going to ask you the question, but I'm asking twice. I'm asking once, I'm playing one clip, and then I'm asking a second time, I'm playing a second clip, and then I want you to tell me. Is it not a conflict of interest for Thief Money Mangal to be appointed by Guy Joseph to head housing as the Minister of Housing and Planning and all the rest of that? For him to put in a private business owner who's supposed to be working in the best interests of all people, who then employs by direct award Fresh Start, of which he himself has financial arrangements and partnerships with his own private business.
Fresh Start is supposed to design, to finance, and to build those projects using their money. Okay, they use their own money. The terms are that after the project is finished, I need you all to listen, after the project is finished, certified, they have spent their money, we now owe them. When that indebtedness is created, and the indebtedness can only be created legally when the project is completed, certified and completed and certified. So after that is done, there is a 12-month moratorium. So during that year, the government of St. Lucia would have already created the indebtedness to Fresh Start. We don't pay them, but we pay them quarterly interest sums on the $50 million, which will only be due upon completion and certification. You're with me? Good. The balance of the monies, well, the interest is paid, and after 1 year, we start paying them in the same 3-month period, quarterly, principal and interest for that quarter. Now, folks, none of those arrangements are calculated on our debt, although it is a burden, a financial burden carried by the state. It is a financial burden carried by the state. But let me just show you an internal memo of the contractual terms of Fresh Start project. Could you put up that first memo for me, please? Good. Department of Finance, from Director to PS. Date 17th June 2020. 4 years after they have been in office. Over 4 years. National Road Rehabilitation Project, Fresh Start. The Department of Finance is pleased to inform you that approval has been granted under the following terms and conditions with respect to the National Roads Rehabilitation Program using a design, build, finance, transfer loan facility. The project, by the way, folks, leave that up. By the way, let me just inform you, information coming to hand. Julius, Tiger has not paid Julius. Julius is taking Tiger to court for the road that was given to Tiger in Dennery as a result of a direct contract. He could not do it. He contracted Julius. Julius was work. He can't get paid. That's under the show. But Julius, if you're listening, I would want you to call the show for me when I open the lines, please. Okay. The project includes the provision for culverts, bridges, and road crossings as part of the terms. Terms of facility. Project limit, 50 million. Facility, design, build, finance. Repayment term, 4 years plus 12 months moratorium with an interest rate at 5.25%. Now, Moratorium on principle, 12 months from date of commencement of work. Good. So folks, this is a schedule of payments. Okay, you can take it down. Which shows that we are paying them after completion. There is a 12-month moratorium on principal payment. So for the following year after completion, all we pay them is interest on the money to which they are now entitled. And after that year, we begin paying them interest with principal. Okay? Now there is a schedule of payments, which I will show you. It shows the quarterly payments. So for 4 years, quarterly, there are 4 quarters in a year, so there would be 16 payments for 4 years. But for the first year, there's a total period, you could say, of 5 years of payment. The first year, interest alone. The next 4 years is interest and principal. Could you put up the schedule for me, please? They will. Okay, right. You will notice here the schedule of payments to Fresh Start. Each payment represents a quarterly payment, folks. It represents a 3-month payment, so any 4 payments together would be for 1 year. Beginning by moratorium, the interest, as you can see here, for every 3 months is $656,250. All right? $656,250. And that will kick in after completion of the works are certified and after we in fact owe Fresh Start $50 million. So let us say that is money they have in the bank and they're entitled to interest. They will get interest because we owe them. Now folks, that amounts to about $218,750 a month in interest. Zot Bietan, $218,750 a month. You can take that down. Folks, that interest payment becomes due only when, 1, the works are completed, 2, the work has been built to specification or to standards, 3, Fresh Start have spent all their money on the projects, so then they are now entitled. And 4thly, our engineers have certified the work. So work is certified, payment is due, interest kicks in. But this is corruption at its highest level. Only 2 quarters have elapsed since they signed the contract. Yo poko même commencé, juge ouais fini. Nous haka paye yo le terrain en lè la ha nou poko dwe yo. You know? When will it stop? When? So it is correct to say that based on those 2 payments that we have paid Fresh Start, once the ink had dried on the contract, we started paying interest. Because we have paid for the only 2 quarters that have passed since the signing of the contract. When they have not spent a penny yet. Folks, like I said, this is institutionalized corruption, aided and abetted by the political directorate. You know? So it is safe to say, like I said, we are paying interest from the day the contract was signed. Now, let me first show you the 2 payments As I indicated, they signed in June. You saw the thing. July, August, September is one quarter. October, November, December is another one. A third is not up yet. But the 2 quarters that have passed or elapsed, you are in interest of $1.3 million. Show them the first treasury thing for me, please. Good. Vendor name, Marigo Buildings. What happened? Fresh Start made the payments, directed that the payments be made to Marigo Buildings Depot Limited. The contract is a Fresh Start, but Marigo Buildings Depot Limited is the one receiving the dough. $656,000. The date here is, where's the date? Clearance date, 22nd February. 22nd of February 2021. 656,000. Give me the second one. 22nd of February. The other one, 3rd of March. 3rd of March. Another one, 22nd of February, 6, and what? How long later? 5 days. 5 days later, another one for 656,000 again. Those are 2 invoices for representing interest payments for Fresh Start. And folks, the 2 of them are a mere, 5 and 8 days, 8 or 9 days apart. 8 or 9 days apart, $1.3 million in interest. You could take it down. Folks, is that right? Is it right? In a time when the government is saying they cannot even pay COVID wardens. COVID wardens had to work for 2 months before being paid. When the Prime Minister says the country is broke, it is not broke. The resources are ill-directed. We are in a mess. Poor people can't get reprieve. They cannot get assistance. They can't.
Now, all of that, not just to establish, re-establish, and solidify the point or what was made, to make sure that you understand not only what is happening with our precious state resources after we have borrowed hundreds of millions of dollars, after the Prime Minister has presented an $800 million bluff, literally half of a $1.6 billion budget, of which 800 million of it has no sources of income. They're giving direct awards, and they're giving design finance bill where they are already servicing interest payments on work that has not even been completed, to the tune of a ceiling which they can reach, so there'll never be any cost overruns. Bill us until you're ready to bill us up to $50 million. So if you spend $30 million doing work, you can still bill us up to $50 million worth of work. That's your ceiling, right? Anybody in accounting would know that that's madness, but again, normalized corruption. Now, in the story of Fresh Start, because this is all to establish that even right now in Rodney Bay and all of the Package 1 roads that you're seeing around the country, you see it on the signboard, Package 1, that Fresh Start is making payments to former Senator Thief Money Mangal, right? And his private business. That Mangal was the head of housing for the last 3 years, and even Guy Joseph tried to get him to stay longer. Earthworks that were overdone by Fresh Start at Shock became the foundation soil for Mangal's business that is right now being built down in Bois de Wage in Grosley. Who paid for the trucks from Fresh Start to go from one place to the other? You did. Your money, your taxpayers' money, The money that could be going to your children's education or healthcare or whatever. Conflict of interest, using your professional position in government to subsidize or funnel money to your private business or friends who you have business interests with. So where did Fresh Start come from? Well, we want to go back to Hurricane Thomas. Guy Joseph was in the middle of being embroiled in a scandal over an airport and a company for which his sister was signing, Asphalt and Mining, that got direct awards. Guy Joseph was driving an asphalt and mining vehicle to work at the Ministry of Infrastructure. So that company could not do or take advantage of all of the desilting and river clearing and gabion baskets and all of the construction and all of the other things that had to go after Hurricane Thomas relief. But Guy Joseph knew of a company from the time he was a boy, Hippolyte Construction. And what happened when all of the contractors who saw that all of the work was going to one set of people, including Guy's immediate family, who Guy did not even pay, right, Glenroy? Then turn around, Guy comes back and has a meeting at Infrastructure called not by him, but by all the contractors that are seen only one set of people getting work and they're not getting work. So they sit down in the Ministry of Infrastructure boardroom and they complain that none of them are getting work and there's only one set of people. And from that, the concept of Fresh Start was born. Taking those same players that were involved, right, before, Hippolyte Construction and so on, and becomes Fresh Start. Fresh Start that has no track record officially as Fresh Start, has gotten every single piece of work through direct award, including the works that were given to it by the housing, HUDC, by Housing Urban Development Corporation. And who was in charge? The same man, Mangal, who has the Marigo Construction Depot, whatever company. So he's only getting paid $1,000 to be on the board, which somehow justifies him. The reason why they only pay people small amounts to be on these boards is because if you're already successful, they expect that you're supposed to do things for the greater good, not use it as a justification for you to literally give direct awards to a business that is directly tied to you. So I thought, after all these accusations, I like to see the permutations of how these guys try to worm their way around and wriggle, but I'm old school, I'm naive, I'm stupid. Because wrong and strong. They have an idiot like Champagne that, wow. And they will literally tell you project after project that they have done using Fresh Start, using partnerships with the same Mangal's private company, being facilitated through Housing, HUDC, and through the ministry, and through the government, and through the state funds, as their defense. Was their defense? I'm doing it. Puesa. You don't believe me? This is from, what, 2 days, 3 days ago?
Forestier was done. I don't think when Marigo was done, VAT was even part of the equation. The increase of price and the superior work that was done. So when people will come, and I have no fear about speaking about these things, when people will come and accuse Fresh Start and say, oh, this is my company and this is this and this is that, I have no fear in coming and speak about these things, because when I was a child growing up, Hippolyte equipment existed.
That's right.
Building roads in St. Lucia. You think today I have the capacity to own Hippolyte equipment?
No way.
When Hippolyte equipment was a leading company, now companies rebrand themselves.
That's right.
They evolve after a period of time. One company that was known as that, they may change. And so, but let's put the politics aside. Show me one developer in St. Lucia who could have done that development at $6 a square foot and give you the quality of output that you have there on a project like this.
You remembered NHC when we found NHC with no money?
No money.
And we found NHC with all of its problems.
in July of 2018, in consultation with the minister, I said, Minister, we need to do something bold. And we decided that PPP, based on the success in Forestier, that we had to continue with the public-private sector partnership arrangement. And so in July of 2018, we launched what was called a symposium. I don't know if you remember that. That was upstairs in the Ministry of Infrastructure's conference room, where we invited developers to view 11 sites around the island.
I remember
and
that.
we said, listen, we are willing to partner with you. We want you to partner with us. You will benefit from NHC's concessions, and let us do the joint developments. And I must tell you, to date, we have 2 successful developments ongoing in a record time. I mean, we talk about 2018 to 2020. By 2019, we already had a full set of development ongoing, and we were able to open Shock.
That's right.
Last year in 2020.
And look at the quality of the work that is being done in that area. And I'm not afraid to say, Fresh Start is that contract was given to another individual. And because COVID, another local person, because of COVID and the impact that COVID had on business, that particular developer decided they did not want to stretch their resources at that point in time. And because we needed to get the project going, then we ended up engaging. Fresh Start again gave us an offer, and we proceeded with them.
Fresh Start is top quality.
Because he is more valuable as a developer than sitting there as the chairman of NHC. Correct. What do you think the chairman getting? $1,000 a month for the kind of work that you have to do as chairman of NHC? And using his own expertise, most of the things you see there, that was developed. Because remember, he's an architect by profession. He worked at the Ministry of Planning. He's a developer. He's a contractor. It's a combination. So what I tell people is, when I appoint people to a board, I look around and I ask my colleagues in cabinet to give me the support. When the 2 years that Mr. Mangal was supposed to spend in the 3 years ended, I said, no. A lot of the things are not closed off yet. So he stayed an extra 6 months to help us get through. Then you heard they say, oh, Mangal and Guy.
Minister, any last words, Mr. Minister? Okay.
Chairman, what I would like to say, that I am a patriotic St. Lucian.
Yes, sir.
I believe in my country. I believe in putting country first. I believe that this country has been directly involved in my personal development. This is where I was born. This is where I raised. This is where I was trained. I did my education and so on. And this is where I will make my contribution. And I am doing so, and I will continue to do so without fear and favor, whether I do it in the public sector or I do it in the private sector. So all the criticisms that may come, okay, despite the criticisms will come, I will continue to uphold my hand and to live up to the challenge whenever this government calls upon me to make a contribution to my country. I will also do so. In my private business, I will also continue to uphold the cause and to make a contribution to this country and to the development of the people of this country. And that is why I will be coming back here together with the owner of Fresh Start.
That's right.
So all of the sayings you're hearing on the talk shows and you're seeing checks being put up and you're seeing director's name and all those stuff being put up, we will get to the bottom of that.
Yes, sir.
We're going to get to the bottom of that, because I can tell you, you see the model that we have developed between those 2 local companies in Fresh Start and Marigo Buildings Depot. This ought to be promoted. This ought to be emulated.
So I open the phone lines now at 5727588 and 4847588 for those of you calling via WhatsApp. That's 5727588 and 4847588. We can talk about anything that I've raised here or anything else that you want to highlight. Just feel free. You can call in and we'll talk about whatever. Now for me, not only have I seen normalized corruption, but here you have two guys sitting down there. You would think that they were going to have a full-throated defense, and their defense is that they are just normalizing the corruption. You're letting the man take advantage of housing and development for him in his official capacity to funnel business by direct award in all waters gone to a company with which he's affiliated. And nothing for that. Nothing for that. When my grandfather had to become the first native governor, Sir Frederick Clark, he actually had to give up his shares in Clark's drugstore and Clark's cinema to become Governor General. And yet here we are now, and you have Mangal, who's getting interest payments from Fresh Start on work that has not even been done or certified by the government. Is telling you that he is in bed in partnership. His Marigo Buildings Depot Company is in bed directly with Fresh Start. And nothing for that. Good afternoon, caller. Hello.
Hi.
Good afternoon, caller.
Good afternoon, Christopher.
Good afternoon.
Oh, I'm calling you again, and I'm extremely upset again. Every time I call you, it's like I'm really upset. Let me ask you, Christopher, what's the protocol for tourists right now to quarantine in St. Lucia?
There are two issues. First of all, when you're talking about visitors that come on vacation, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's the same as it has always been. They come with their tests. There's no second test, and from there, what to do? Temperature checks sometimes. They don't even have them to wear masks when they go on boat cruises or anything. They have restricted tours. They say they're in a bubble, but those same restricted tours, they encounter St. Lucians, not all of whom have had vaccines, and even if they've only had a first dose.
But my question is, are they allowed to be in the public?
Are they allowed? They're not supposed to be in the public, but at the end of the day, if you have a quote-unquote bubble, it means there must be some interaction with some level of the public. If you're going to go to the Sulphur Springs or you're going to go on so tours here and there, you will still interact with elements of the public. You may not be able to go and have a juve in the middle of Castries, but they are in some degree in contact with the public.
So let me tell you what I'm upset about. So I work in the mall.
Mm-hmm.
And for purposes of my job, I'm not disclose where I work.
Mm-hmm.
But there was this family about an hour ago who came to my store.
An hour ago?
An hour ago.
Okay.
And they're telling me that now they're purchasing duty free. So I have the information.
Mm-hmm.
And they're telling me that they came to St. Lucia on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And they've already been to so many places. They went to the surface. Oh, they showed me pictures. No mask. All pictures they showed me, no mask on their face. They went to Sulphur Springs. They went this place. They went that place. They went everywhere. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And the people are telling me, no quarantine. From the time they came in, they were able to leave immediately. And I'm upset because my father was a diplomat who came down yesterday. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I had to make an apartment for him to home quarantine. Right? And in his own country. He's in his own country. He cannot leave.
But that's exactly it. You're treated like a second-class citizen in your own country. And I'll tell you how bad it is. The laws related to the COVID-19 bill only apply to St. Lucians. Any expat or any tourist who comes here and does get COVID or have anything, they don't even have to go to VH. They don't even have to quarantine where we want them to quarantine. They don't even have to stay in the country if they can charter a flight. And that is an active thing that is being done in St. Lucia. So the rules do not apply for tourists, just like with Easter.
And you're telling me for Easter now, if we get an answer, I was just exposed to a tourist. I don't know if they have COVID or not. You're telling me for Easter, if we have a spike in cases, you will blame me again as St. Lucia.
Exactly that's exactly what they're going to do. But if you think that there are visitors in St. Lucia who have to abide by the same 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Sunday or on the Monday thing, think again. Think again.
Christopher, I'm a big man who paying bills, who paying Shastney salary, I ain't standing for that, man. We need to do something about that, man.
Agreed. Agreed. But I would like you to contact me after the show. I'd like to get whatever information I can get from you without getting you in any trouble, because it's always good to let the public see. So who feels it knows it.
We'll talk, Christopher.
Thank you very much for calling. We've had a call on hold for a while. Thank you very much for holding. Good afternoon. Hello? We lost that caller. Okay, we'll take a couple more calls. But the worst part about the double standard is how we've normalized it, sadly. And 3 weeks from now, just like with the second testing, just like with this stuff there with Mangal and Guy and Fresh Start, somehow we just don't have the stamina to prosecute these cases, to stay the course. Good afternoon, caller. Hello? Hello?
Yes, good afternoon to you, Chris.
Good afternoon,
Hello,
sir.
good afternoon to you, Chris.
Yes,
and
go ahead.
good afternoon to Senator. I'm not sure, I'm getting a feedback from you. I'm hearing you out off mic, but let me make my contribution.
Okay.
Great. Yeah, I hear you a little better now. Thanks. Chris, let me tell you something. I heard on Chris's program this morning a clip she played of Stephen King.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard the Prime Minister some time ago where he made a statement that he's not hiding away from the press, and anybody who invites him, to speak, he will make himself available.
Mm-hmm.
Now, although I will not call you anybody, but he meant everybody who has an avenue to invite him. I would like you to put an invitation, a secret, public, an
You want me
invitation to the Prime
to
Minister.
invite Shasni to come on this show?
Yeah, yes.
That's not a problem.
Help me out. No, he made it. He made himself available to anybody in the media who wants to call him and talk to him. And that was in relation to the where he went on his show and take his actions on the COVID thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm calling on you people. Let me understand that. Let me see that you'll send him an invitation, and if he refuses it, then we'll take it from there. Now, Chris, on the other thing, I am so elated. Quickly, I have not taken the vaccines because my contention was that we got 5,000 in the first instance, and I felt that was supposed to go to the frontline workers.
Yes.
Then the 20,000 whatever, and we 25,000, and we had to give 5,000 away somehow, so we have 20,000. So when I hear the ministry boasting about they have given 19,000, 18,000 injections, and the people who took it on the first day were supposed to take the second shot today, and I'm seeing that it is not available to them. So
don't forget, the new story is that now the longer you wait, the better it is. So now it's no longer 6 weeks, it's 8 weeks. And if
exactly. and the problem is, Chris, if the 8 week comes and we have not got it from the COVAX thing, what happens? Because remember, in the interim, it was said that if you take the first shot and you do not take the second shot in time, then if you have to take it again, you will have to take another 2 shots, because there is this lifespan between the first and the second shot. This is what that was explained to us, and right now I'm hearing that it has moved. Not that I am making anything against the vaccine. I am for the vaccine, but I was for it in a sense that let the frontline workers, the nurses and everybody. In my age, I have 65 years, and I have no complications as far as I know. You know, so allow these people to go ahead and reserve. If you have 20,000, you give 10,000. Reserve the other 10,000 for those who has to take the second shot.
Well,
and right now today,
that would have been the prudent thing to do. If you know you have, if you know you have 400 plus nurses, you have over 1,000 police officers and so on, you make sure there's first and second shot for them and so on. But like I said, it tells you that somebody somewhere, because Mary Isaac was the first to say it, is that somebody somewhere felt that this way, and it's much more politically expedient to do it this way, knowing that you have not even gotten your first shipment from COVAX, although the Prime Minister in his own speech said that by the middle of March we would have COVAX shipments. We still are waiting for COVAX shipments, and now we're here next week. Last week we heard this week, and the week before that we heard the week. So same thing over and over again.
But here we are, Chris, we are entering the first week of April tomorrow.
Yes.
Right? And we were supposed to get some vaccines. Now that we are being told that we'll get those vaccines at the end of April, and we are being told now for persons who are supposed to come and take the second shots today. Today, we are supposed to take second shots. They're telling you now they have given you another window of another 10 weeks. So what fifth that will put in me who has not received it yet?
Thank you, Carl.
When I know I'm old, I'm old already, and I'll die anyhow. Regardless of what, I'll die anyhow. Anyway, Chris, have a blessed day.
Thank you, caller. Thank you. Let's take one last call. Good afternoon, caller.
Hi, good afternoon, Christopher.
Good afternoon.
You know you look better in red when you are ready.
Well, I was born ready, so I'm close to being ready all the time.
Okay, good. So number 2, did Guy Joseph say that Tiff Money Mangal is an architect?
That he was an architect who worked in the Ministry of Planning and then has his own business development. I'm not going to challenge those things.
But we can't challenge that. You ain't plan that architect come up with to siphon money from the public purse.
Siphon?
You ought to be damn good to do that. So what school can I go to learn that art?
I don't know if the Bobolis have a school. I will not lie, but I know that the family is very big into schools. They're very big into
Maybe we're learning
schools.
that kind of art at Chitty.
Yes, it's a chitty problem, for sure.
Okay, so moving along. Today is the 31st of March, and I hear that the COVID warden's contract is supposed to end today. So I just want to ask you, Christopher, is it safe for me to go to town, and then if a COVID warden stop me, do I have to listen to them today, or is it tomorrow that I do have to, they can't talk to me? Although I know they can't talk to me, because they're not police officers. But since the contract ending today, and they have not gotten paid, I hear?
Caller, whether those wardens get paid or not, even if the whole of St. Lucia got vaccinated and COVID became a thing of the past tomorrow, Shasney will not do anything but keep them until the day after elections. And if there's one thing that the United Workers' Party has done successfully at every opportunity, it is to staff law enforcement with UWP hacks, operatives, or people of the voters list. From Compton with the original police force, Peterson with the city police, and now the COVID wardens. And after elections, you will have all of them there. Whether they wanted to be members of the force or not, they will be made members of the force with a week's worth of Zoom training and going around with the police to do traffic and other things. So trust me, the fix is in on that.
So, Chris, so that has something to do with Letla that Travis was supposed to have cleared the air on, that he was not answering his phone today.
Well, Travis seems to be preaching overseas, so let's hope he catches the spirit.
And finally, Chris, I done ready to wear my red already, tomorrow already, God willing, from tomorrow we read. Oh, Christopher, what time we reaching the fun walk? On Friday.
All I'm telling you is I will go in that constituency, because if there's one thing I trust about this government, it is that I cannot trust this government.
So this is a sad state, not a sad state of affairs. It's St. Lucia has become a really, really sad state. But like you always say, and I firmly believe, I'm convinced of that, it is what we have accepted and allowed for the last 5 years. We need to wake up from that sleep. Don't drink that drugged tea anymore. No ni pour lever. Si pas ça, do bout lever. Demain, Christopher.
Thank you, caller. Okay, folks, we're out of time. But I must admit, if there's one thing that has given me a little bit of hope, it really has been the young people, not only in their resilience, but their ability to sort of make parodies, and I'm happy to see the talented people that are out there. Sometimes it's good to get a little laugh here or there in the middle of all of these adverse circumstances. So I'll leave you with one clip. I call him the quarantine preacher, and I really like the vibe. I hope to see you tomorrow. And I don't like to call April Fools because I don't like the people who are born on 1st of April to always have to feel bad. But it looks like we're all the fools right now in terms of what's happening to our country and us being willing to sit and clap for our own demise.
Shasney cannot stop us from drinking our whites.
Amen.
Our bounty.
Amen.
Our grabber.
Amen.
We on the streets from 9 to 9.
Preach it.
Amen.
Amen.
No quarantine.
No quarantine.
I feel like I'm going to overeat and just shut up white just now.
Oh yeah.
The opinions expressed on this TV program by the host, co-host, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions and responsibility of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of UTV or its affiliates.